Living your parents' house in your 20s used to be the most normal thing in the society. But as years go by, it feels like it became impossible for a 20-year-old or a 25-year-old even to move out with a comfortable start of his financial journey and of his life in general. This is a big concern, this is a big question, because if you're in your 20s right now, you probably think I should probably move out because I am old enough and I got fed up from my parents and they probably also got fed up with me. So it is probably best to go separate ways and continue our lives on our own terms. Because let's be real, when you start to turn 20, 21, 23, you start to want more privacy, more intimacy in your life. You want more space, and if you live with your parents and if you have a small room for yourself, if you're lucky, then it starts to feel a little like a small prison because every other part of the house feels almost like a unreachable space. I mean, you don't really feel like you have like you have some privacy there. Now, this is of course very obvious. From the other side, your parents probably also want you out most of the times. Sure, if you have very good relationship with them, you might be happy with them right now, but at the end of the day, we all understand that being alone in this period of your life will probably be better for you. But because of the finances, because of the renting crisis, because of just this economical recession that we are witnessing right now, as we speak, moving out or buying a house, I mean, that's another miracle that needs to happen. But all of these things seem unreasonably expensive because they are. If you're in your 20s and if you work a job, if you really started taking your shit seriously very early on, and if you have a well-paid job or even like a lower paid job, you're still unable to move out of your parents' basement when you're alone, when you don't really share income with your partner if you have a partner. And that is another rabbit hole that we can get into because more and more young people have no relationship, no partner. So one income is like the norm at the moment, even though to sustain a household right now in this Western society, you for sure need two incomes to be able to not go bankrupt or whatever. Moving out was very normal because it was actually affordable and because there were actually enough houses, there was enough property to go around for everybody. And people were just moving out because it wasn't that expensive. Like, think about putting aside like 15% of your salary to rent a place for yourself, like back in the 70s or 60s, 80s, I don't know. I wasn't around, but that was probably maybe like it was probably around 10 to 20% of your salary would go out on rent, and then with the other like 30-40% you will cover all the other expenses, and you will be able to live comfortably and still have some money to spend on other things that you want. Now you have a situation where like a salary is like 3K and you need to pay like 50% of your salary on rent, and all the other expenses will probably cover like another 20 to 30% of your salary. So we're now looking at 10% at best of your salary being actually for you. And if you want to actually spare some money, if you want to actually invest some money, then the situation becomes even more funny because, I mean, it's like a tragically funny, not really in a good way. But if you actually want to prepare for the future in any way, like if you want to save some money for a bigger investment, if you want to save money to one day have a comfortable start for your children's life, or if you want to put a good amount of money later on a mortgage, or whatever your plan is, whatever you want to do with the future, you probably need a bigger capital than you have right now to actually make some moves that will be suitable for your life. But if you save like $100 per month, I mean, that is like pennies. You cannot do anything with it. And I'm not gonna even talk about that, the fact that the money is losing value actively every day pretty much. Inflation eats up your money. So that $100 that you saved this year is probably gonna be like $95 in actuality a year later. And it's gonna be like $91 in 2 years, and so on and so on. It's still gonna be a $100 or €100 bill, but the inflation is actually gonna take a good amount of its value. That is already a rough start. Now we have to understand that all of these milestones for young people cannot be compared to previous generations because we live in a different world. We live in a world where these things are impossible or very hard to obtain or to make these steps towards moving out. I was actively thinking about it a few years ago when I turned 19, and I was like, all right, I still have a good amount of time in front of me where I can live with my parents. But realistically, I feel like I want to live on my own right now because like I'm capable of it in the first place. And in the second place, I feel like I eventually want to get a partner and have more social active life with my friends, because when you live with your parents, you can't really invite your friends whenever you want because there are more people living in the house. So that makes sense from the start. But when I thought about it, I realized that it is barely possible. It is actually impossible in the place where I live. I live in the Netherlands, and I know a good amount of people, a good amount of colleagues that I have who come from different countries, and they pay like around 40 to 50% of their salary to rent. So half of their earnings directly disappear after they land on their bank account. I mean, that is just insane. And I have the opportunity to actually live with my parents for now, and I'm not really considering moving out at the moment, or at least I'm not considering moving out and throwing half of my salary out into the wind. So this paradox, this problem that we are facing right now, our young generation, I think this is a very important issue. We have to shift our mindset as young dudes, as young girls, and because probably they also want to move out. They don't really want to live with their parents after 20s, when they get into their 20s as well. We have to understand that at the moment, our situation is fucked up, and we can't rely on the past to behold and to fulfill the upcoming milestones awaiting for us. What I mean by that is you probably will not move out at the same age your father did, or your grandfather did, or your mother did, or your uncle did. You have to understand it, because if you put pressure on yourself, if you put too much thought in it, you will feel like you're failing, like you're an actual failure, like you are late to the party, you're late to your milestones, you're late with your achievements at this point of your life. But you aren't. The society and just this whole economy has changed. It has become worse for you, period. So you have to understand that you're not really a failure, or you're not really incapable. Like, your father is not a superhero by any means. Like, he lived in a time where he could move out without really thinking much about it. But right now it is a crisis. There is a literal crisis when it comes to houses, when it comes to property, when it comes to all of these things that are very important to any society. So if your father moved away at 22 and you're 24 and you're still living with him, and you feel this tension starting to boil underneath, not because you start to hate each other or something, but you just want to live a different life, and he's getting older and his lifestyle is getting different as well, so it doesn't really suit. It's like a polarizing thing. Your father, for example, wanting to watch his 80s movie, and you want to watch NBA, for example, and you can't because there is only one TV in the house and somebody has to watch their thing on their phone. But your father doesn't care because it's his place and he can watch his 80s movie, and you have to watch your NBA game on your phone. You understand what I mean? This is a very small example. This is a very innocent example. Something that is a very small problem, and you probably don't have to care about it as much. But now if we talk about partner, if we talk about like actually starting a family, now we have to think deeply about these things. Think about if you bring a girl to your place and you live with your parents. Now, I mean, there is nothing shameful about it. She knows in what economy we live in, and you know what is happening in the world. You understand that it's impossible to move out at this point of your life. It's not shameful, but in a way you understand that you just want your privacy and you want your personal space with her, but you can't afford it at the moment. And this brings another problem where you are not even ready to start a relationship with anybody, not because you don't want to per se, but because you don't have a place to be, and you can like be in a car forever. You can't be like at a McDonald's drive-through forever. You have to have a permanent place where you can stay with her, you know what I mean? So this brings a chain of problems. The fact that young people are not moving out does not only start a problem with their respective families, but it also starts a problem with their social life and their romantic life. This goes a lot deeper than just having your personal space. This goes a lot deeper than just having a stigma of being a failure. This goes a lot deeper. So what is your solution? What can you do in this situation? Well, you have a few things. You can bear it and live with your parents until you literally can't. But in that time, you have to make sure that you're actively making money and that you're actively saving up enough money so that in the future you can move out more comfortably, because it's probably not gonna be as comfortable. It's never gonna be too comfortable. Like, it's always gonna be a rough path to move from your parents' house to a different place and actually paying for all the expenses now yourself. But at least you can make it smoother by saving up enough money. And maybe if you save enough money, like in 5 or 10 years, God knows what's gonna happen in that period of time. But then you can maybe put some money down on a mortgage, or you can move to another place where it's cheaper to actually buy property or rent property. So that is something. So you live like 5 more years with your parents, you save up enough money, and then you take it from there. Or you can just go balls to the wall and move out and kind of hope that you're gonna figure it out as time goes on. Now, this is a lot harder to do in practice because half of your salary is gonna actively go to waste every month, and you have to work with pretty much only half the money you earn. So that is already a bad side of moving out right now. But if you save up enough money, or if you make a good amount of money on a monthly basis, then you can probably be out of your parents' place and you'll be fine. I'm personally gonna move out of my parents' place in a month, but I'm gonna go to a different country where I realistically will have like 10 times less expenses than I have here in the Netherlands. So I won't really be as affected by it, but I am in this privileged situation where I can kind of choose between 2 countries, and that makes me have more options. And this option to go back to Macedonia, which I'm about to do, makes a lot more sense to me, because there I won't need to pay any rent to anybody, because I will actually have a house that I actually own, or like my family owns, because in the Balkans or just in Eastern Europe, everybody's owning their property, luckily. So you can live in your place and don't pay rent to anybody, just pay the monthly expenses that your house produces. But here in the Netherlands, it just doesn't make sense at all. And I'm kind of feeling like I'm ready to move out, and I really want to try and see how it is to live on your own. And I can come back anytime, and you probably can too. Like, if you move out for a year or 2, and if you see that it doesn't really work the way you thought it works, you can always go back to your parents' place. I mean, it's gonna feel a little bit like a embarrassment, like a failure, like a total mess, but at the end of the day, you gotta make smart choices, and you cannot rely on expectations of societal expectations or of how it used to be, and that you should do the same. Because as things stand right now, it feels like it's only gonna get worse. The house market, the renting market, it feels like this economy is getting to a point where on the surface it still looks fine, but underneath it's just standing on very thin sticks. And at any moment, those sticks can crack and things can really go bad. So if I was you, you have to, of course, analyze your personal situation, and you have to decide yourself. But again, this video was not really about to advise you or to give you some encouragement to move out or whatever. I just wanted to talk about this issue because I think it's a very big one. I think this issue is gonna present itself later on in like 10 or 15 years, when there will be so many young people still living with their parents and still waiting to move out. It's just gonna pile up, and there will be millions and millions of people, of young people in the West, that would not be able to move out, and they would all be seeking for the same exit door. But of course, that would only drive the rent prices, the house prices even more, because there will be even more demand coming in every year. And it's already happening. Like, there are more and more 20 years olds waiting for an opportunity to move out. There will be more and more people in their 20s and even in their 30s just waiting and waiting for the perfect opportunity. And it feels like this perfect opportunity might not even come, sadly. So you have to be cautious, you have to think about it. You have to at least be actively looking at opportunities and solutions for your situation. Try to earn money in the process. You have to also try some different things, because realistically, say you find a place to rent and you give up on this, like waiting for the perfect opportunity. You're like, okay, I've saved up like 10K, I'm moving out. And then you see that like a year later, you've saved up like another K, like only another $1,000, and everything else just went to expenses. So you understand that you're actively a slave. You're working for nothing at the moment. If you have like a normal job, you save no money, you work the whole time, and you're pretty much like at net zero. And that is of course a bad one, because you'll feel like you're a fucking slave, a fucking goy, because you're working and you get nothing in return. You're just giving all the money you earn back to the system. And in that case, you've just wasted a year working and making somebody else rich, while you work to only pay your rent, and you saved $1,000 in the whole year, or $2,000. Like, that's nothing. That's literally nothing. So yeah, that's why you also have to think outside of the box and try to earn money in some more untraditional ways, because the traditional ways are pretty much dying. It's like a dying breed. Like working a 9 to 5, like a normal 9 to 5 job right now really feels like a dying breed. It feels like the future of a 9 to 5 worker is not bright. It's actively getting dimmer as time goes on, actually. So yeah, tell me what you think about it. Tell me how you feel if you're in your 20s, or if you're just about to enter your 20s, even if you're just about to enter your 30s. How do you feel about this situation? How do you feel about living with your parents, if you're living with your parents? Or what are your experiences if you moved out, and if you actually try to live on your own, how did that go? And what are your personal concerns? So yeah, this was a more like thoughtful and calm video. Normally I go more on the brain dead side. I kind of try to hype it up and talk about some topics on a higher note. But today we really just thought about it. We were mature, we were chill. And I hope you liked it, and tell me what you think about this issue down in the comments, and God bless you. See you in the next one.